You're listening to the Renegade Blitz, the best podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at RBlitzPod, and at Blitz Videos. Read articles on RenegadeBlitz.com, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app.
And welcome back to the Renegade Blitz. I'm Ty Polk with Chris Ward and Brandon Walker, back with you to talk Steelers versus Browns, Monday Night Football. And it may be the last game at Heinz Field for Ben Roethlisberger, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later as we welcome back Jake Burns of the Orange and Brown Report. Jake, it's always a great opportunity to talk to you.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to this one and the conversation surrounding it.
And on game day, it'll be almost a year removed from the Browns' shocking victory over the Steelers in the AFC wildcard game. The Browns came into the season as one of the favorites in the AFC to not only win the division, potentially win the conference and make it to a Super Bowl, but it's been a disappointing season at 7-8. So, Jake, just in short, sum up why the Browns have failed to live up to the expectations this season.
Well, they have not had collectively as much cohesion on offense, and you can pretty much point at one person. I mean, there have been inconsistencies with injuries. Nick Chubb in the COVID list, and Kareem Hunt's been out for large stretch of the season. We know that they came into this year with a pretty good plan about wide receiver, partly because they couldn't really reshape the wide receiver room. Odell Beckham was coming off an ACL tear. He wasn't a marketable piece to trade. But Jarvis Landry's obviously at a number that nobody's taken his money off your books. So they were expecting those two to be healthy contributors throughout the year. That has not happened. As we know, the Odell Beckham situation fell apart. Jarvis Landry has been hurt for large portions of the year. And the quarterback has been underwhelming, to be kind. And when you don't consistently have all of your pieces to do the things you want to do offensively to supplement your quarterback, and you're relying on Baker Mayfield to overcome tough situations, maybe you're not running the ball very well, or your talent at wide receiver or tight end is not playing up to par, then you're going to have some issues. So you mix in Baker's dealing with his own set of injuries, and you have a struggle. The defense started out the year as a completely new group in terms of the people they brought in, John Johnson, some draft picks, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, among others. They did some reshuffling there, and it took them a little while to gel. They have started to come together nicely, but the timing of which the offense has struggled, coinciding with where the defense has come on, they've dropped some games that they needed to win, particularly 2 straight 2-point losses to the Raiders and then to Green Bay on Christmas Day. So that really is the summation of it. They've been in a lot of games. I think they've only really found themselves out of 3 games this year, but have not been able to close the door in a lot of situations and overcome close games. I think we'll look back and people go through each of these years and look at teams where teams finished the year before. The Browns are going to be on the wrong side of that 1-score victory metric that people like to look at for improvement year to year. You know what I'm saying? This team was 1-5 in 1-score games. They're a prime candidate to win some more because those things typically balance out. But that's the summation of their season. They have not been able to win tightly contested ball games, and that's why you're 7-8 instead of 9-6 or something along those lines, as you guys can do. So they're frustrating, partly because of their own mishaps and poor play. Some things have been out of their control too. So it's just not been a great year in the schedule. I think you guys would agree the schedule last year was pretty favorable for the AFC North. It's not been as favorable this year based on who they played. So a little bit of everything, guys.
Oh yeah. That NFC East last year was one of the worst divisions ever. And the AFC kind of has the same thinking of it right now, but it's more competitive because, well, of course, when you put the Steelers out there, they're still going to be the Steelers no matter what. The Browns are still – this is an elimination game, but, the division, I guess, facing off against, who is it? Who is it this year, guys? I'm blanking right now.
NFC North.
Yeah.
NFC North, yeah. That's one thing. You have to deal with that buzzsaw out there named Aaron Rodgers.
So Jake, you mentioned about Baker Mayfield, and he's really struggling right now. He has a 7 to 8 touchdown interception ratio in his last 5 games. In your opinion, what's been the main issue with Mayfield? Is it due to injury? I know he had that bad injury earlier in the season. Is that part of the reason, or is it something more than that?
It's a little bit of, there's a lot. I'll put it that way. I mean, it's a lame answer, but there's a lot going on. I've talked about it ad nauseum for the past 5 weeks. It feels like kind of understanding who Baker Mayfield is. I kind of coined this thing as there are creators at the position, guys who can create things out of thin air, can make plays when plays aren't there. Defense takes away your first option. They can quickly decipher that, go to the next option. Those creators are the rare breed, the Mahomes, the Rodgers. I think at one point in his career, Ben was a creator as well. But you get those other guys who are recreators. They can take a scheme and they can recreate what the scheme is asking them to do. Baker by nature is a recreator. He's going to take a scheme. If it's going to design somebody open, he can get that person the football pretty successfully. And that's about the limit of it. He doesn't make a ton of plays outside of structure, meaning he doesn't get out of the pocket and make plays. He doesn't make those off-platform throws. Like, Baker has really good arm strength, but it takes every bit of Baker's body in order to get the ball delivered with power. There are some guys who are easy throwers of the football. Think Justin Herbert. I think you can put Mahomes obviously in that category. Rodgers, how they effortlessly can throw the football. Baker's not that type of guy. He has to be very buttoned up mechanically, and he has not been able to progress as far as the quarterback mechanics that you would like to see from him. So when you mix that he's not been able to hit, for whatever reason, has not been able to hit the layup type throws this year as consistently, along with a mixture of being asked to do more due to injuries, along with, again, being forced to do more with less in terms of the talent around him, you can see a situation where everything that Mayfield does poorly is sort of exacerbated, right? You can see all of that coming into fold here, where his shortcomings are sort of magnified this year as opposed to other years. He's not helping himself. He's not making the easy plays. He's not consistently hitting open receivers. And then, like I said, he's not going to make those exceptional plays. So how does your offense survive? If you're not running the football well, it's tough to survive with that type of quarterback. The Browns, for the last 5 weeks or so, have not been running the football outside of Green Bay, where they really did run the ball well. They have not run the football that well over the course of the second half of the season. So you get the struggles that the Browns have had, which has been like an average of 13 or 14 points per game over the course of week 10 on. So that's where you're at. Mayfield, though, again, to kind of reiterate, I think that some guys do it really well on the national level. I would say Nate Tyson, Robert Mays, who I talked to Robert Mays on my pod just the other day. He's a rigid athlete. He's not going to extend plays for you. He's not going to make plays out of structure. And you guys know this. You watch Ben his whole career. He thrived on making people miss in the pocket, extending plays. It's a unique trait. Like some guys have and some guys don't. They do it different ways. Lamar Jackson does it a different way than Ben used to do it, so on and so forth. So Baker doesn't have that. He has to be a very timing-based, anticipation-based quarterback, and he's really not. He doesn't progress through schemes the way he needs to be on top of where his first, second, third option are. He doesn't do a great job, like I said, of being able to extend things. So then the thing he has done well in the mold of Kirk Cousins, Jimmy G, those types of guys in the Shanahan-Kubiak systems is he made those simplistic throws. You drop back on 3 steps, your first or second read on a single side of the field is open, you'll hit it. He did a good job of it last year. That's why he had a nice year. Or you drop back, you run your play action fake, and you boot out, or you hit the top of your 5-step off the play action, and you deliver a strike where the ball's supposed to go. He did that last year. He did it really well. So we all thought, okay, this guy's going to be a better rhythm-based quarterback in structure. We can get by with that. You can be a good football team if you elevate that type of player. You got a good run game. You got a good defense. You can elevate that quarterback. But if other things falter and then he's not hitting those basic throws consistently, you get what Cleveland has had this year, which has been a really frustrating and underperforming offense. And as a byproduct, gentlemen, you get a conversation around, do they want to keep this guy around long term? And that's really the unfortunate thing going on here.
All right, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. We'll get to that question later. However, we do have a star in Nick Chubb. The team run game is third in the league. Nick Chubb has 1,143 yards, averaging 5.5 a clip. But with the Steelers run defense ranking last in the league, allowing about over 140 yards per game, do you think the The Browns will use a Bill Belichick type strategy and just take the ball out of his hands. So it's going to be a colder night in Pittsburgh than it usually is. I mean, your normal Pittsburgh night, 32 degrees come game time.
Yeah, it's a plausible strategy. I think New England is trying to play the game in a way where they're trying to protect Mac Jones, to kind of go back to the Belichick statement there. They're trying to do everything they can to make the game as easy as possible for Mac Jones and really take any sort of hard decision-making out of his hands. The Browns are really trying – they're in a weird situation, guys, where they're trying to not only do those things for their quarterback in terms of helping him out with run game, protection, all of those things. They're also trying to figure out, is this guy going to be the dude, right? You guys remember, there was a time when there was a debate whether Ben should get his second quarterback, right? He was carried early in his career by great defenses and things of that nature. You have to go out and decipher whether you actually have a quarterback that can carry you and garner the $30 million per year, $35 million a year that it takes to keep him. Because what you're traditionally getting, guys, is your rookie contract, which maximizes with Baker's fifth-year contract number of $18 million next year, is in those first 5 years, you prop up the quarterback and surround him with a ton of talent because the cap allows you to do that. Then when they take over the 30, 35, 40 million number, you expect them to prop up everybody else and your shortcomings on your offense. You're trying to figure out, can your quarterback do that? The pace at which it used to be different because there wasn't so much rigidity in rookie contract structure. As you guys know, when that changed in the CBA, it now means you have 5 years to figure it out. And I think the Browns could go that route, Brandon. I think it's a great question. But they're also, in the same token, a very analytically driven team who knows that throwing the football is, even at an average clip, better than running the football at an expected points added number, an EPA level, better for your production of your offense. So they could go the route of saying, hey, we're going to let Mayfield throw 15 times and run it really well. But the problem is they haven't run it well enough consistently lately to lean on that like they would love to lean on that. So they've had to throw the football. They're also in the middle of this crux decision where, do we want to make Baker Mayfield the guy for us moving forward? And the only way you can get to the root of that answer, gentlemen, is to practically apply it. You got to get him in those situations and see if he can do it. If he can't do it, then you can't pay him. Otherwise, you're just making a bunch of risky decisions, and nobody wants a bunch of risky decisions. So I don't think they're quite going to do the Mac Jones 3 attempts type stuff. Could they limit him to 20 throws? Maybe. He threw 36 times in Green Bay, and they went still for 408 yards of offense. If he had hit 5 of the throws that he missed collectively, he went 20 for 36. If he hits 5 of those, he goes for 300 and a couple touchdowns. Like, that's the thing that you're looking at, is we're all in Cleveland's market trying to figure out who to blame all the time. They want to blame the head coach and play caller because Kevin Stefanski's the head coach and play caller. You can't blame the play caller. If guys are running wide open, you got to get the football in their hands. Eventually, the Jimmies and Joes matter. You got to be able to make the plays on the field. If you're putting them in the position, they got to make plays. So you can kind of deduce, guys, the dilemma that the Browns are in right now. I know you guys have a quarterback dilemma coming up, but it's different for Cleveland because they've invested the first overall pick in this guy, and the return has not met what they'd hoped. And then you're in this weird position going into the 5th year where the data is not good. Every single 5th-year option picked up for a quarterback that hasn't had a new deal, new team. Ryan Tannehill, Dolphins to Titans. Mariota obviously didn't last his last year in Tennessee to get a new deal. You get Winston, Jameis Winston, played 5 years in Tampa, on to New Orleans or wherever. I think he went to New Orleans first. That's what it is. There's no proof. And I think Lamar will sign his deal in the offseason, so he's the only kind of lingering example here. But Baker's down the data path here. If I don't think they're going to re-sign him this offseason, and if you get to the 5th year, there has not been a quarterback re-signed to their original team when they get to the 5th year. So it's trending in a bad direction. Now, the narrative could change. You know, I know you guys don't want to hear this, but if Baker goes in and plays really well Monday night, has a great game, and they're able to defeat Pittsburgh in Ben's last game, and he goes into week 18 and plays Joe Burrow at home for the division, and they win that game, and he outduels Joe Burrow, who's as hot as any quarterback in the league right now, and plays in the playoffs and does well, everything changes. Everything, just like for Pittsburgh, everything is right in front of them still for the year. The same goes for Cleveland. If Kansas City takes care of Cincinnati on Sunday at 1 o'clock, everything is right in front of all of these teams, which will make Monday night a really exciting endeavor for both of us if Cincinnati is to lose that game to Kansas City. So that's what we all are hoping for. But yeah, I mean, Baker, as bad as his year has been, and really as bad as Cleveland's year has been, you can still do a lot. You can still win enough games here to find a way to win the division, which is pretty wild. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. It's been a bunch of ups and downs in your year, and you're like, I can't believe we still have a chance to maybe win this division. So there's still a lot on the line, guys, and there's still a story ending to write for Baker and Ben and all these guys. It's still out there. Even though we feel like it's right at the end, there's still big games to be played here.
And you kind of covered it with a lot of like the in-time throws for Baker Mayfield. But right now, the leading receiver is Donovan Peoples-Jones with 483 receiving yards. And I know that primarily the Browns are a tight end offense with Njoku and Hooper out there as well. But is that really just a passing game right now? Like Baker's just inability to hit these ribbon throws, because even with OBJ gone, it still hasn't been a fix. And also, of course, Landry's health as well.
Yeah, it's Landry's health. It's a young player, Donovan Peoples-Jones, a 6th-round pick the year before, who's really trying to find his niche in the league. They obviously have not had consistent production. Even when Odell was here, wasn't consistent production between Baker and Odell. Your guys' guess is as good as mine. The wide receiver room is just not ultimately very talented. It's still got some guys, Rashard Higgins, are just kind of floaters. I mean, Anthony Schwartz, they took in the 3rd round. They have high hopes for him down the line, but it's a team that runs 13 and 12 personnel more than almost anybody in the entire NFL. They run a lot of tight end stuff. So the sheer volume of attempts for wide receivers is already at a low number. So you get a mixture of that. You get a mixture of not great wide receiver talent, and then a mixture of a quarterback who's not hitting enough throws consistently, and you get this disaster. There is no doubt the Browns are in line, even with the quarterback dilemma, because it's either going to be Mayfield back for his 5th year or somebody else. They can't cut Mayfield. The only way they can get off of his $18 million is if they trade him. There's going to be a wide receiver drafted in Cleveland. It is a really nice mesh of needing a talented wide receiver and a draft that's loaded with talented wide receivers. They're going to remake that room in the future here, but nonetheless, yeah, they have not had. It's a mixture. It's always easy in the NFL if you can pinpoint one thing to blame stuff on, right? Like, hey, we fixed this one little part of the engine, it's all going to run smoothly. Well, Cleveland's has been a bunch of different things, and the wide receiver room is no different. They, like I said, they expected Odell to have a nice year. They expected Jarvis to have a nice year, and then they'll supplement the 3rd receiver when they use a 3rd receiver. But other guys have been thrust into playing a lot more because of the fallout of the first 2 guys, and this is sort of the situation you get when you don't have guys who are ready-made to step into an offense like this. So production's been limited. It's been gross, and they're going to have to try to fix it in the offseason. It's been really premium cap dollars and premium draft picks to figure it out.
And Jake, the Browns' offensive line, was considered by many as the best unit in the league last year and heading into the season. They're still a good run blocking team. The Browns are one of the best in the league at running the ball, but I'm not really too sure. But have they taken a step back this year, or do you think, or do you still see them as an elite offensive line? I know Jack Conklin has been a big loss as he's on injured reserve right now. But what has been your thoughts on the offensive line this year?
They've taken a step back. They're good. They're good enough, but they've taken a step back. They have 2 of the best guards in football, Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio, who they just re-signed this year to big deals. J.C. Tretter's a really good center, has played every game in Cleveland since he was signed in 2017, but unfortunately he was on the COVID list last week, so he missed his first one. They had a young guy named Nick Harris out of Washington they drafted. They played him, and he played really well. The problem has been the tackles. First game of the season, they're in Kansas City. They go down the football field in the first quarter, drive, touchdown. Second drive of the season, as the field flips, they're down 4th down and 1, run a little end around play to Jarvis, a little quick handoff, a little fly sweep, and Jed Wills gets rolled up on ankle, and he's been fighting. He's their left tackle out of Alabama they drafted in 2019. He gets an ankle issue, a high ankle sprain that he's been fighting through all year. He's not been very good. He's been inconsistent at best, and you guys understand if an ankle injury for an O lineman like a tackle, brutal. He's done the best he can do, but it's just been inconsistent. So when they lost him, the guy that you guys are familiar with, Chris Hubbard, is their backup swing tackle. And Chris Hubbard gets hurt in the next game out against Chicago. His season's done, knee. So now they have nobody left. They had really a rookie tackle they took out of Cincinnati named James Hudson in the 4th round, but he wasn't ready. Didn't come from quite the perfect scheme fit, had so much to work on, wasn't ready. They've thrust him in. They've taken another guy named Blake Hance, who is a interior backup player. Actually, Blake was the big story when Cleveland came to Pittsburgh and won last year, because I don't know if you maybe weren't paying attention to it, as I don't pay attention when my team loses and all the annoying storylines are out there for the other team. He literally was signed that week, and Baker didn't even know his name. Like, they didn't even know his name. He was in the locker room. Browns were dealing with that weird COVID situation. He's done a nice job since he's come back. This year, he's played a lot of right tackle. He's just not very good. He's not a tackle. He's a guard by trade, and he's been playing tackle. Been trying to do that. Jack Conklin in and out of the lineup. Came back finally midseason. Dislocated the elbow. Came back from that a couple weeks later. Actually, that happened. The dislocated elbow happened relatively early at the quarter season mark. Came back at the halfway mark, and patella tendon is done. And he's like, we don't even know if they're going to keep him around long term, because that's such a gruesome injury and the way his contract sets up. So they've been right tackle struggle, left tackle in and out with injuries. They've played James Hudson. They've played Blake Hance. They actually got so depleted because of COVID, they slid Joel Bitonio out to left tackle last 2 weeks. And he's been really good, because Joel Bitonio, I think, is a generational lineman, to just me personally. Came in 2014, was a tackle out of Nevada, and he's been elite ever since he stepped on the field. He played 2, and he's graded out 2 elite games at left tackle the last 2 weeks. I don't know if they'll keep him there this week, because they got a lot of guys back from that COVID list, but Joel's playing so well at left tackle. They got a young man named Michael Dunn. They could continue to play at left guard and get by that way. We'll see what they do. It depends on Jedrick Will's situation, but it's been a top 15 offensive line, kind of trending in the anywhere between 10 to 15, because they're just so well coached. Bill Callahan, their offensive line coach, is so good, and they get by. They get by in that way, and they do well enough. But they're, if you lose those guys, if you lose 2 pretty good tackles, you're going to take a step back. So take it for what it's worth. But they get by with pretty good interior play, and I think they felt really good for the first time about how they performed last week and where they can go from here, given that performance last week.
All right, let's just flip to the defensive side of the ball. As you can see, as we've been dogging the Steelers' offensive line all season long. However, the first meeting, the offensive line played their best game of this season for the Steelers. So the Browns ranked 10th in rushing yards allowed with 105 a game. And how do you think this is gonna go? This is gonna go with Myles Garrett. He hasn't had a sack in 2 games. And how's Davion Clowney doing? Do you think you have a chance to keep him at next year? Would you accept that?
It's a good question. Myles is dealing with a pretty gnarly groin issue that has really. It's been several, and I know everybody's dealing with the injury issues, guys. There's no doubt. I know TJ deals with it too, but he's been dealing with a groin that has really hampered. If you watch Myles play, Myles plays a speed to strength game. He'll like to set you up often, bending the edge, and then really once you think you can't get there and you start hurrying outside, he'll get that left arm up inside your breastplate and throw you out of the way. Like, that's just kind of how he plays. So he's been dealing with a groin, and he's not really playing like himself. So take that for what it's worth. Still very good, but not otherworldly like you like your guy to be, like you guys know how it is with TJ. Clowney is a perfect fit for what they need as an edge setting secondary weak side rotational play. He's not rotation. He plays a ton. He's their strong. I should say, apologies. He's their strong side guy. Traditionally, teams like to run to the right side. He aligns on the left side defensive end. He does a great job setting the edge. He will never wow you with pass rush production, but he has had a nice year from a pressure standpoint. He's been out for the last 2 straight weeks on the COVID list. I don't know. I think he'll be back this week, so it'll be his first time playing in a little bit. But he has been a really bright spot for them. He's played a healthy year of football. They just lost Tack McKinley, their rotational edge, who's done so well for them. Tack tore his Achilles, which was brutal to see because he's a guy who's fighting for his next NFL contract. And to tear your Achilles that late in the year was really tough. But yeah, I think Clowney's a guy they would like to have back. I think he's played himself into a deal that isn't 1 year. I think he might want multiple years, and somebody out there might give it to him. So I don't know if that means a mesh for Cleveland or not. We'll have to see. Probably a better fit for somebody out there who's got a rookie on a cheap deal, like a guy who was drafted. I think the Colts, they draft a really productive defense, or maybe the Cowboys, like Micah Parsons. Think about somebody who drafted a cheap rookie edge and can afford to pay a little bit more. I mean, the Browns are about to get Myles Garrett deal to kick in. They signed it a year and a half ago, but the big money hasn't kicked in yet. So that's about to kick in. So paying that much money to your edge room starts to become a little difficult. To your original point, Brandon, about the defensive line, I thought Pittsburgh kicked Cleveland's butt up front in the first matchup. Like, I just really thought they dominated the point of attack on both phases. They didn't allow Cleveland to run very well because they were more physical. And I think in the run game, even though you guys run a shotgun-based run game, which is passive in nature, aimed at getting lighter boxes, I thought you kicked their butt up front. I thought you controlled the angles. I thought they did a great job. I was very vocal about it when that game happened, that I thought, Pittsburgh gets this offensive line skill knock, but I thought they were the more physical team and wanted it more. So does that translate to Monday night? I don't know. I think Cleveland has played fairly well. They've made some rotational changes. Getting Clowney back will help. They also didn't have a young man named Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah when they first played Pittsburgh. He's a will backer for them and is an exceptional football player and really helps augment their linebacker room with a run game and speed and pass coverage benefit. Very, very good player who can help take away some tight end seam issues and some other things that Pat Freiermuth can put in front of you. So that will help. The Browns are also trending toward getting back their full defensive rotation. Ronnie Harrison, the last few weeks they've played with makeshift secondaries. I mean, they've lost John Johnson. They lost Ronnie Harrison, two of their starting safeties. They lost for one of those weeks. They didn't have Grant Delpit, another young safety. They get those guys back. They've been playing with cornerback issues, partly because Greg Newsome had gone on their first-round rookie, had gone on the COVID list, got a concussion. He was on the concussion list, then went on the COVID list, just got cleared from the concussion angle, is expected to be off the COVID list in time. So the Browns defense has played well, but I think they're getting everybody back too, which is a good timing here. Obviously, with two important games hanging in the balance, hopefully we get to I keep saying that the caveat is that the Bengals have to lose. So, if that happens, the Bengals win and they win the division, we're all just going to kind of be like, okay. I mean, there's outside wild card chances here, but it's really hard to see it come into fruition. So, to the defense is in a good position. They're playing better. They're understanding what Joe Woods, their DC, wants them to do from a schematic standpoint. They're communicating better. They get everybody back. So there's reasons for Cleveland to feel optimistic about that side of the football, even more so than what they've been. Like last week, they gave up 3 touchdowns on the 3 Baker Mayfield interceptions, the direct return of those 3 interceptions. The next possession for Green Bay, wherever they took over, they scored. But they only allowed Green Bay to score 3 points in the second half. So, there have been some really, really nice steps here over the last 7-8 weeks to show you that they're on the cusp of being one of the – I think they're a top 10. They're like 8 to 12. Top 10-ish defense, in my opinion, with how they play. Not an aggressive Baltimore in-your-face, mug-you-up defense, but very, very good at funneling the football to certain portions of the field, tackling well. And when they play good run defense, which we did not see them play very good run defense the first time when they hosted Pittsburgh, when they take care of run fits, they do sling run fits a lot, which to get overly technical, they get their DBs involved in run fits a lot. When they sling those run fits and they do it well, they're tough. They really are tough to move the football on. So if they get those guys back and they can play in harmony, they're going to be, I think Pittsburgh will have their hands full. Doesn't mean they can't put up points and doesn't mean that Baker and the offense is going to do much, but I do think it's a unique challenge for Pittsburgh's offense. Because I know you guys got to 15 last time. It took a heroic, if I recall, a really, really great Pat Freiermuth catch in the end zone to get there. It was an ugly game. Both offenses were really scraping to try to figure it out. So it should be a similar type of game, guys. 17-14, 17-13, 16-13, something like that is how I kind of feel it's going to go for whoever wins.
Yeah, and since that game, when the Steelers dominated the line of scrimmage, everything has went downhill because their offensive line is really struggling, and their run defense has been terrible. They rank last in the league, 8 straight games without allowing at least 100 yards rushing. So
I saw a stat, Chris, that they would I think since week 10, they've given up 38 runs of 10 yards or more. The only team, I think that's most in the NFL, and a second place team has 8 fewer Wow. It's pretty. It's been pretty ugly. But again, they took away everything from Cleveland the first time. They did a great job. I don't have the direct number of rushing yards right in front of me. Maybe one of you guys do. I don't have that up, but they dominated. So I think they're going to try to replicate that plan. And what the issue with Cleveland, guys, is that you don't really have to take the pass game that seriously. You can play a lot of single high coverage, creep an extra guy into the box from your safety room. Maybe you bring Edmonds down. Maybe you like to bring Minka, whoever, and you can play better run fits. You can gap out the run stuff and make sure you have a guy for every gap. Where if you're playing too high coverage, because maybe you're playing Mahomes or you're playing Herbert, you don't like to do that because you need more deep coverage help, right? So you get gapped out a little bit and you give up run. Minnesota, you're a little worried about Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. You play more too high to take away some of those targets that Cousins really loves to take advantage of, and you lose a gap in the run game, and it can blow up in your face. You guys saw what happened in Minnesota. So I think that you have the ability, and why Cleveland is looked at some teams and that's a really bad run defense. Why can't they run at times? Well, when you have 8 guys in the box consistently, it's called gapped out run fits. It's hard to run the ball. You really got to make people miss, or you got to get lucky. And I think that's what Pittsburgh will try to do. And everybody should try to do that, man. Make Baker beat you. That should be the formula. Make Baker Mayfield beat you.
Yeah, and also one thing, the offensive line coach for the Steelers has departed for Oregon, but that's another thing. So that was their best game. I think it was that little short stretch of time in which that was their best, where we had the most optimism for the offensive line, because they got it together more in the pass blocking by nature with Ben and the shotgun. Mm-hmm. But that was the first game where it was okay, finally we're seeing a corner. And then from there, it's been, I think they might have had another peak game or so, and then it's just steadily dropped since then. Well, let's talk about the secondary for the Browns. Their number one cornerback, Denzel Ward, did not play in that first game, and so he should be in for this game on Monday night. The Steelers have one true receiving threat, Deontay Johnson, and whenever Chase Claypool gets the pass interferences on long balls, and also occasionally he'll make a few catches as well out there. So is it going to be a traveler with Johnson for Ward, or is there going to be just basically it's everyone for themselves and they're going to go whoever lines up on a certain side?
It's a fantastic question again. I think they really, really like Greg Newsome, who I do too, the kid out of Northwestern. He's played really well this year. When they have both of those guys on the outside, they have not worried about moving people around because they really trust both Denzel and Greg. Now, when they play Greedy Williams, who they took in the second round of the 18 draft, he missed all of the 19 season with a degenerative shoulder issue. He's come back this year, been up and down, more up than down, but his downs have been really down. Green Bay picked him apart last week. He has sometimes, if they're missing Troy Hill in the slot, they've taken Newsome and put Newsome in the slot and put Greedy outside. They could get to moving. I mean, Deontay's a great player. It's the type of player who Denzel covers well. Denzel doesn't do well with the Devontae Adams, A.J. Browns, DK Metcalfs, the big guys. Those guys give him physicality issues. Guys who are smaller, shiftier, twitchier are really similar to the body type that Denzel has. He traditionally does pretty well with them. I could see them traveling him, but I think a lot of it will depend on who ends up playing in the corner room. If Troy Hill can come back and play, or if you see all three of their top corners playing, they might move Newsome inside. Then you could see a little traveling. But they also have to match the physicality stuff with Claypool, and I think that's something they're very aware of too, because he can get up and go get a football every now and again. He might make an inappropriate gesture at the wrong time in the game, but he's going to go get a football up the sideline, and that's where Ben's comfortable throwing. They love, you guys watch it. They love throwing it up the sideline, man. They like taking those opportunities to throw those fade balls. So that's something Cleveland's very aware of, and it's something that Pittsburgh's challenged Cleveland on in the past 3 years or so. So I think that they'll be prepared for it. You can be prepared for it, but you ultimately have to stop it, right? I want to ask you guys just kind of crossover question. What is the general feel of Claypool? Is it ugly? Do you guys respect the talent, but he's got to mature? What's it feel like?
It's talent. I think in terms of talent, I think whenever he's at his best, you seen the 4 touchdown game last year. When he has the talent, it's all about, it's really the entire thing with the Steelers with me. It's all around mental with this team. It's mentality that scares me the most about the Steelers. I know that there's a level of oh yeah, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. we're going to just go walk in there. We're going to beat them down. But at times, I don't feel that the team, even Deontay at times, is mentally in it. Like it's really the mental side again with the Steelers that I'm worried about more every game than anything else. And with Claypool, I mean, yeah, he's been loud and brash. You come into this league and go 11-0 and not have a big head out there, but I think there's a level with a lot of Steelers fans that's going like, all right, everything's no longer sunshine and rainbows. It's time to get to work.
I dig that. Yeah, just from an outsider and watching the whole Monday night debacle, and always kind of been curious because he's a talented dude, but it seems like is there a passion? You know, a lot of talented guys have 1 or 2 years, and then the NFL figures them out, right? And you know, the NFL is it's a counter punch league, right? They figure you out. Can you counter what they counter you with to take away what you're most comfortable with? So I was kind of curious. I probably shouldn't ask you guys any more questions, but like,
no, go ahead.
What is the future of that room? Is Juju back? Like, I know he's been hurt all year, but like, I'm kind of curious what the wide receiver future. I know Deontay's a big part of it. Obviously, he's a grinder, but like, is Claypool still visioned as the huge part of things moving forward? Is Juju on his way out? What's that look like?
I think Juju. I'll do it real quick.
Yeah, you go.
I think Juju's on his way out. I think. Honestly, he regrets coming back because he had a deal with Kansas City that was on the table, deal with Baltimore.
Yeah. And
then I think Claypool is going to stay around. I don't know if he's going to resign long term. He's only in his second year. You got to give him the benefit of the doubt if somebody's going to. And Deontay Johnson should get an extension this offseason. That should be tops on their priority list. Well, I mean, with the players that are there besides Minka. Other than that, I see them drafting another receiver probably in the second or third round. There's a guy at Penn State, Jahan Dotson, I like.
Jahan can play.
Yeah. And you got a couple guys at Ohio State, Olave and Chris Olave. And
Olave and Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson, Columbus, yes, so thank you.
Get one of those, you'll be just fine.
I wouldn't mind having Addison too from Pitt. Maybe next year.
That's going to be another year though, Chris.
I know that's why I said next year.
What's the vibe at quarterback, guys? What do you think? They're going to draft somebody? They're going to go with who's in the house, or what do you think?
I think they might go for. I could see it like this. I think they're going to do their best to try to pursue a veteran quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
If it fails, they'll go with something in house. Maybe draft someone again late because I think they have more offensive line issues than anything else. And I think they're going to address that first. And then in 2023, go for the quarterback.
Makes sense. Is this draft class
if they draft
suspect? Yeah, I got you. I just want to fire.
Perfectly in a perfect world, I'd say like we're talking about college guys. If it was a perfect situation of Pickett was to somehow take a mammoth drop, and he ended up in the third round, and they've already addressed it, the top 2 picks with an offensive line, I'd be like, yeah, go for it. But that's not going to happen. Someone's taking him early. I don't know who.
Yeah.
Like the question with him is like, is it a Brandon Whedon situation with him? Like he's too old, but I don't think
he's only 24.
Matter. He's 24 and Whedon was 28, but still some people look at that. And Whedon kind of messed that up a little bit for him, but he's still younger in comparison.
Yeah, Baker came in at 23 just for comparison point. A little older guy,
true.
Grad transfer. But yeah, your general point is right. I mean, you can't. You're looking at his second deal. He's 28. I mean, it's not old quarterback years, but we got this idea.
Yeah, but Baker was a fighter.
Yeah.
Wasn't Burrow pretty? Oh, he was older too. Burrow.
Joe's an older guy. Yeah, I think Joe came in at 23, 24, right in there, right in that area.
Oh, maybe I was wrong about that.
Yeah, Joe was a grad. He was he graduated early at Ohio State and then ended up playing 2 years at LSU. So, yeah, I think if we look up Burrow right now in his year 2, he's probably 25. Yeah, he's 25. He just turned 25 on December 10th. So,
not too bad.
Wow.
Yeah,
right,
so
never mind.
24.
Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about then. But in that case, I thought he was like at least 23.
Yeah. But Jake, how do you? I mean, what was I going to say? Say if this Baker Mayfield, do you think Cleveland will decide to maybe not draft the quarterback first round, say the Carson Wentz situation when they drafted Jalen Hurts? Mm-hmm. Could you see that scenario happening?
It's not nothing is off the table, guys. You'd love to be your year 4 of your rookie first overall pick. We don't want to have these discussions, as you guys know, but they're in the thick of it. You talk about due diligence with the veterans of the worlds, the swing high Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson types, the swing middle Matt Ryan types, the Browns will Kirk Cousins types. They'll do due diligence on all of those guys. I really think they will. I think they'll try to assess whether there's a fair deal on the table, and if they like one, and there's a moderate value Cleveland presents where they could give back a young quarterback still. Baker is not clearly has a poor-ish reputation in the league, but there could be a team, say Seattle, who's like, I'd rather have Baker Mayfield with his experience in the NFL than Kenny Pickett. I just would rather have that. And you could swing a deal based on that. I don't know, guys. It's a lot of conjecture. They could, like I said, they could go out, play the free agency market and get Mariota or Trubisky to come in and be a challenger in a similar ilk to what they did with Tannehill in Tennessee. They could do that. They could also swing in a middle round guy that they would want to go after. Maybe Malik Willis falls to the second round and they want to go after that type of player. It's all on the table. What I do know is this. Baker's got a 5th year. It's 18-5. It's locked in. The only way they can come off of it is if they trade him. You can get out of that dead cap situation if you trade him. You can't cut him. He's going to be here. The most likely thing that's going to happen, they're going to get him healthy because he's got a jacked up labrum. He tore the labrum. He cracked the bone in the shoulder. He's been beat up in the knee, the groin, the toe. He's got a whole bunch of stuff going on. I think what they'll do is they'll do their due diligence on all these guys and decide, hey, we'll bring Baker back for a healthy year. If he has a fantastic season, we'll pay him. We'll give him the money. I don't care if that means you have to pay him a little bit more because you waited. They'll pay, you guys know this. If you find the right quarterback, you don't really care what you pay him. You don't care because you got the quarterback. Who gives a shit? Sorry if I can cuss or not, but who cares? But they're going to be patient. They're going to check out every option that's available to them. But again, the most plausible thing here is that they bring Baker back at his 18-5, try to supplement the wide receiver room, get better there, use some of that extra money that's left from not giving him $35 million to go supplement some other one-year guys and make a run at it and see what happens. That is like a 90%, 95% most likely scenario there. But they could, if the deal is there, they could go find somebody that's out there because, Stefanski's got connections to Cousins and the Matt Ryans of the world. Like, there's some things out there that could happen. Mm-hmm. So it's all on the table. But I think it is a matter of getting somebody. You're not going to go trade for Russell or Aaron. And I don't think Aaron's going to end up getting traded anyway. But, you're not going to go get one of those guys without having to also give back Mayfield. Because you can't keep 2 quarterbacks on big caps on your contract. You're on your salary cap table. So, if they trade for somebody, Mayfield's a part of that and he's gone. We'll see how it all shakes out. But that's kind of where they're at as far as the shake of the quarterback landscape. But, Derek Carr could become it's weird. Every year. Watson's
still available if you want that as well.
There's been early rumblings of that. And there's a whole myriad of things there, guys. Like, not only is it the off-field stuff, which is massive.
79.5-foot pole.
I can completely agree because what's gone on off the field is heinous and we got to let that all clear up. But there's also okay, you give up 3 first-round picks, which was the asking price for Watson. He comes to Cleveland. Who's his wide receiver room? Who's helping him out in some of these areas? It's the chicken egg theory. I get that. Do you get the quarterback and worry about the other stuff later? But the price for Watson, as per we heard during the year, is very pricey. And the Cleveland has some real holes to fill on this offense. So I could get behind it and really swallow the pill of some of the stuff about giving up capital, but that's to ignore everything else off the field, So there's a whole bunch of dynamics with Watson. But yeah, they're I feel like every offseason, a quarterback or two is like, I want to go somewhere else. And we don't know who that'll be right now. We'll see what happens. But I know there's going to be teams like you guys, Pittsburgh, Denver, others that are going to be quarterback hungry, thinking if we get the right quarterback, if we solve this position, we really can have a chance to win enough games to be a real Super Bowl contender. So the market will be hot. That's for sure.
And Jake, I'll just go back into this game real quick. Who do you think will have a big game for the Browns? And what's your biggest concern for the game?
It's so hard to say who's going to have a big game. If there's a guy you would put money on, it would be that they would run the ball well. Nick would have a really nice game. If the Browns do end up winning, you probably look back and think Nick has a pretty good game. I think last year in that playoff game, if you move past some of the early nonsense when Pittsburgh was giving Cleveland the football in an effort to hand them a playoff win, when they needed it, when Pittsburgh was creeping back into it, Jarvis Landry really gave Pittsburgh fits. So I think Jarvis could have a nice game. He had opportunities, guys, in the game earlier this year, if you recall. Fumbles the ball on the Joe Schobert, strips him on a slant route that would have been a big first down as Cleveland was driving. He also had a chance to catch a football at the 10-yard line as Cleveland was trying to get it back to 17-15, and he dropped it on fourth down. He's had opportunities against Pittsburgh. I think he matches up well with them. That would be my guess. On the defensive side of the football, it probably needs to be Miles playing pretty well. You probably need Denzel to play pretty well because he's going to have a tough cover in Deontay the majority of the night. So those are my best guesses. But, just like Ty, you were talking earlier, man, sometimes the Jags just become a dude in one game, right? Like Porter Gustin had a great game. This random defensive end knocks a ball up in the air, picks it off. You never know. You never know with these things, these weird games with offenses that are struggling, who could become the hero. You never. Ray McLeod could take a reverse and run it to the. You never know. You never know on these things, man. Weird teams and weird scenarios. So Cleveland is all over the board. It's hard to predict, and that's why they're one of the worst fantasy football teams to have this year because you never know what players on the Browns are going to play well. So it's guessing where the production is going to come from every week. But if you guys are able to make Mayfield beat you consistently throughout the game, you have a really good chance.
And
all right.
So, yeah. That also before it. Brandon, it's your turn. My bad.
Yeah, it's my turn. Who do you think? Do you have a prediction for the game?
A prediction means nothing. I mean, it depends on Sunday. Here's what I'll say. If the Bengals win, the division's a wrap. Pittsburgh has more to play for. It's an emotional game. It's been send off. It means something to Pittsburgh no matter what. If it's a neutral game where both teams are still fighting for the division, I would prefer that because I really think Cleveland's willing to give up their season. I'm telling you right now, if they don't have anything to play for Monday night, like the division's a wrap, I just think they're ready to be done. These guys have had a frustrating year, and I don't think it'll be a very good game. If it's a neutral game, I think it'll be close. I really lean Pittsburgh because I don't trust Cleveland's quarterback, but I will say close, like a 17-16 walk-off field goal type scenario. Really ugly type of football game. But I mean, guys, it's like a pick'em. I mean, in this scenario, it's like a pick'em. I think you guys will agree, though, Pittsburgh is a far better home football team, especially in prime time when the crowd's behind them and they start thriving on it. I think they're a way better home team than they are a road team. That gives me concern. Obviously, Ben has dominated Cleveland in prime time in the course of his career. A lot of things point Pittsburgh. So, I mean, I think if you're going Cleveland, you're kind of doing it just to zig when everybody else is zagging. Kind of how if you ever picked the Cleveland to win that playoff game last year, it was just like, okay, I guess you can pick that, but that's not based in logic, So the thing I will say is the Browns do have a really good chance to play a great defensive game, getting everybody back, kind of knowing Pittsburgh's offense really well. And being a lot of those guys, albeit they had COVID, so you kind of got to be like, what does that mean to them? It's different strokes, different folks. But there's a lot of rest there, so they could be pretty fresh. So I feel very comfortable in saying neither team will blow the other out, and I don't think we're going to see like a 35-34 finish. I think it's going to be low scoring, ugly, and it's going to frustrate the heck out of all of us, but one of us will leave the game feeling really good, So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Jake, about about how the Steelers are they're a much better home team. They give up a lot of points on the road, and I think they're 5-0-1 in their last 6 games at home. So they play. But the one thing is, though, I think if the Browns, I think they should adopt that Bill Belichick mentality and just run the ball on the Steelers because they can't stop the run at all this year. And offensively, the Steelers' offense is really broken right now. They haven't scored a touchdown in the first half in 5 straight games. So I think that it should lean towards Pittsburgh just because I think it's Ben's it's going to be Ben's last home game. If the rest of the Steelers players can't get up for that's saying a lot.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we'll know early, guys. If they're not containing Cleveland's run game early, I think you'll know what type of fight you're in for in that regard. If they do take away Cleveland's run game early, you're probably feeling pretty good because then you know they have to throw it a ton. And when you get TJ and some of these guys pinning their ears back against backup tackles, that's like a dream scenario. So, yeah.
And let's talk about that Defensive Player of the Year award because naturally with TJ Watt and Myles Garrett, they're going to be in the discussion of that. But, of course, you have to look around the league. The Cowboys really have two players that could potentially run at Diggs, who was lighting the world on fire as a cornerback out there, and also Parsons, who could be the second person to sweep both Defensive Player of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's got that one at least in the bag. So what do you think about that race?
Good question. I think Myles was really leading it or at the thick of the whole thing before the groin. I think, listen, I don't think you can go wrong picking either of these dudes. Like I TJ or Myles. Like I really, it's however you want to view it. If you want to view it based on getting really granular and looking at the type of sacks, like a really good study like Brandon Thorne does with his offensive line, defensive line study, I think you can do that and find a favorable number. You can look at TJ and talk about the injuries, and I've got nothing but respect for that dude. I guys, I really don't care. They're both good enough that, and Aaron Donald's in the mix too, and all of that. I mean, it's any of them. It's any of them. I thought Myles had a really good argument for it until these last few games because he was coming off that Baltimore game where he pretty much gave him a win because he housed a fumble return like he created on a sack scenario. But it's tough. He has not played as well as you would like production-wise. Now, you're playing Aaron Rodgers. It's so hard to get home. Like, the dude just gets rid of the football at a ridiculous clip. But, you know, it's splitting hairs. I mean, I think, you know, either of these guys has a great performance week 17 and 18, they could end up taking it, to be real with you guys. So that's probably where the deciding factor will be. I would think Myles is in it. I think TJ is very much in it, but it's still, you know, we're not used to this extra week. There's still 2 weeks of ball left. So there's still, the stories are not finished, right? So we'll see.
And Jake, say, Watt's been dealing with a lot of injuries, and they Watt and Garrett, they don't do much the next 2 weeks, and then Parsons or even Diggs or Aaron Donald, like they're still in it as well. Do you think they'll give it to a rookie, or will they give it to Diggs because he has a crazy amount of interceptions? I don't know what is it at right now, Brandon? 11?
Yeah, it's 11.
Oh,
if he breaks Night Train Lane's record, they got to give it to him.
Yeah,
even in a 17-game season.
It's the Cowboys duo is tough to ignore because they've been so good on that side of the football this year, has saved a really good offense every now and again. Boy, the NFL loves premier pass rushers, so it's hard to say that Myles or TJ would be out of it, but I don't think they'll shy away from Micah. If Micah Parsons has 2 dominating performances to end the year, I mean, guys, he's pretty good. I mean, I don't think anyone really saw it coming, but he's pretty dang good. So, I don't have a problem with him winning it. It's ultimately a popularity vote more than anything else, is what it seems like.
And plus, plus they love the star on their helmet, so you got to factor that too.
Yeah, you sure do, man. I agree with that totally. But again, I don't like when a guy wins it who doesn't deserve it, and I think everybody we've mentioned here has a case. Like I really do think that he has a case. And the thing that's I know difficult for y'all with TJ is that he's had really good arguments before and he hasn't won one. He's going to win 1 or 2. It's just a matter of what season that comes in. Myles is not kind of trending in the same direction this year. He's not finished seasons as well as we would have liked for him. He starts out great, but then 2 years ago was the helmet chucking fiasco, ends his season. Then he gets COVID last year when he was really, really, really playing well, was never the same after getting it. He even referenced it. He couldn't breathe the way he was accustomed to being able to be able to come on and off the field. So he has to finish a year before I start really saying like Myles is a lock to win it. He's not finishing years, but again, 2 weeks here and maybe he does. And we'll have that discussion when the time comes. I do like that. The thing that's cool is that we both have really good game-changing pass rushers, man, and that means something. You need that in today's NFL. So that part of it's cool. mean, I was rooting for TJ to sign somewhere else, guys. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, and Garrett, he'll be going up against rookie tackle, left tackle Dan Moore Jr., who would be interesting to see the Steelers give him help because he struggled last week. He gave up 5 pressures and a sack, I believe, against the Chiefs. So I think that matchup definitely favors Garrett.
I would say the same situation with Blake Hance, where TJ can get after him at will if the Browns don't give that tight end chip running back extra attention. It's going to be – this is why we're talking about a low-scoring game, because neither team wants to be in third and long. Cleveland can't survive in third and long. And, and as much as I like Joel Bitonio, the only guy through Joel Bitonio's career that has given him trouble, Cam Hayward. It's just a fact. It's given him a lot of trouble. So hopefully the Browns can – here's the formula. I think Pittsburgh is built a little better because of how sort of lucid they are in their pass approach to coming back when down. If Cleveland doesn't play from out in front, it's a wrap. Like, don't let Cleveland get out in front. That's the thing you have to stop. If you let them get a 14-10-0 lead, then they can start really mixing the deception in their offense, run pass, and then you can it starts to become difficult to defend them. But if you put them in all these predictable pass situations, that's where, that's why they're having the tough quarterback discussions they are, because they don't have a guy who can handle that.
And we only have a couple more questions, I believe, but I just want to ask, how's the fan base doing right now with this current Browns team? Because coming into it, they were favorites, like among the AFC. They played the Chiefs tough last year in the divisional playoff round game. After they beat the Steelers, the whole state was really pumped. They had those billboards with the juju saying Browns is the Browns or something like that. So how's the fan base doing now after the bit high expectations?
Oh, they're a wreck. It's miserable, guys. I mean, it's when you have expectations and you don't meet them. The same thing happened in 2019 when Baker's coming off a really great rookie campaign. They go trade for Odell and they stunk. And that's the same situation. It's the same vibe. It's all the same, where there's been a bunch of expectations that haven't been met. Now, again, you can rewrite some of the storylines of this year with the final 2 weeks. So I don't want to close the book, but it's the same. I mean, it's people are frustrated. They're yelling at each other. You take your stance. You either believe in Baker, you don't believe in. You guys know this. You're on social media. It's just how it goes, and it's not a healthy.
Believe in Baker.
Yeah, so it's not a healthy environment, guys. Anytime you spend as much draft capital, they win. It's a first overall pick quarterback, and if he's not playing the way he's supposed to be playing, it's going to piss people off. It's going to drive your fan base to divide. And that's where a lot of people are divided on it, where folks will look at what Favre did and Breeze did, and they weren't that good. Well, that was 2003, dude. It's a different game. So, but that's how they'll do. They'll justify anything. They'll believe in what they want to believe. And Cleveland, as you guys know and have witnessed for decades, is quarterback deprived. They've never been able to really find a guy. It's a miserable existence to not find quarterback play. And Baker has elevated the quarterback play they have had. Now, that's an incredibly low bar to elevate. It's been bad for a long time. So the thing you're trying to decipher is, do we settle for average? Do we settle for that? Is that an okay thing to settle for? And that's not an isolated Cleveland discussion. That's a lot of teams talk about this. The Vikings have been talking about it with Cousins for years, and some other fan bases like the Derek Carr in Vegas, they think he's average, or the Carson Wentz. It's universal. It happens everywhere. But that's what you have in Cleveland, is a fan base who has never had this discussion because they've always had such terrible quarterback play. So now they really want to anchor in and believe that Baker will be this person that it's hard for me to envision him getting there. It really is. Not calling it impossible, because nothing's impossible, but you get what I'm saying, guys.
Oh, we got you. All right, this is probably going to be the last question, but do you have faith? This is a big opportunity for the Browns to spoil Ben's potentially last game at Heinz Field. So,
do I have faith they
how do you feel about that? Huh?
You saying, do I have faith they end up doing it and spoiling it?
Yes, because you didn't give us an official prediction. You kind of said, if this was here and if this happens, we need a final. Can they pull it off? We need give us a concrete score.
Yes. Okay, I'll say 17-16 Cleveland. fine. I mean, I ultimately have to answer back to my own fan base, guys. So, I got. They'll see this somewhere. I think Cleveland can win a close game. I really do. Do I think that that's the most logical outcome to the game? No. I think Pittsburgh's got so many things in their favor playing at home, and the emotion and the primetime slate and where Cleveland has been playing. So I'm predicting Cleveland will win because, I have to. These psychopaths find what I said. They'll hold it against me forever. But I have nothing but I've said this for years, man. It's a model franchise in Pittsburgh. Cleveland is, we've been looking at Pittsburgh with envy for years, guys. So, it's tough. I think there's going to be so much going on mentally for Ben and the group. They're going to really, really want to get it done for him. But sometimes that can be a lot to play with, a lot of emotion, a lot of wanting something really bad. We'll see whose favor that works in and whether Cleveland's able to rise up and meet that emotional level. They could do it, guys, but it's I don't feel great about it. Put it that way, Brandon. Hopefully that answers the question. I'm like lukewarm on my take there. 17-16 Browns. I'm like leftovers out of the fridge type of warm.
Well, it's the time of year for leftovers, and that was Jake Burns of the Orange and Brown Report. Always a great interview, Jake. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, and we hope to have you on again.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. All right, so we will continue the podcast, and you got it. So it's just like that. So guys, as always, it's a great interview with Jake. So few things to talk about, and we'd be remiss as people who have grown up in the era of Madden football, and of course also seeing that great last game that was Super Bowl 43 for the 6th Super Bowl for the Steelers. John Madden passed away on the 28th. A great man. He was known for of course, as being an announcer and, of course, Madden football, but also he was the head coach for the Oakland Raiders during some of those great Steelers-Raiders rivalries of the 70s. And I'd like to think that we're all here in a way because of John Madden, whether it's playing the video game or listening to his commentary or just because of the love of football. You agree, guys?
Yes, his passion for the game is basically unmatched in the history of sport, in my opinion. Everybody played Madden. My favorite game, only video game I really ever played was Madden. I got a PS2, PS3 just for Madden. And maybe NFL 2K4 or 2K5. But him, if he was on, especially back in the days and when it's like him and Pat Summerall.
Oh yeah,
with the big time NFC East matchups, or any NFC matchups because it was on CBS. That was a game to watch.
Yeah, I tweeted. I think it was yesterday about Summerall and Madden. That duo, that broadcasting duo, that's the best of all time. I don't think they'll ever be matched. Just the way they meshed together. Was just unbelievable. And as you mentioned, he's a Hall of Fame coach, best broadcaster ever, in my opinion. And he's a video game icon. I mean, Madden, everybody grew up, playing that and stuff. And
even if you hate it these days, you played it at one point.
I remember the late 90s games. I remember the games back when Madden was actually on the cover. But he was in He was in the Little Giants movie. You may remember that scene.
Replacements.
Yeah. He didn't fly. He had a fear of flying, so he took the Madden bus across the country when he was doing games. I mean, just what an incredible life. John Madden, he impacted so many. I always remember, too, he loved Brett Favre also. He loved Brett Favre. But, definitely
as well. That thing, just seeing that he literally just chopped it with his hand. It was like some Jimi Hendrix stuff, chopping the turducken on Monday Night Football with his bare hand. I remember watching that as a kid and go like, "Wow, this guy's badass."
Yeah, another thing about Matt is that he was like the first really announcer that really went in depth about offensive line play, and growing up playing football, just little league and stuff. I was on the offensive line or whatever. So that was always, I learned a lot from the game, just learning the game growing up. Hearing Madden talk about the offensive line play was just always something that I enjoyed and everything. So did you guys get a chance to watch his documentary, All Madden? It was on FS1 the other night.
I didn't get to watch it, but you can sure. But it's going to come back on. But what is your favorite Madden moment in general?
Probably the Super Bowl calls. So like Ty mentioned, the last one,
43.
Super Bowl 43. He also called Super Bowl 40. So as far as like Steelers related, would be that he's talking about the immaculate reception. Now Madden thought it was a legal play, and that always lived in like the history and the lore of everything. But there was just so many memories that the non like actual football broadcaster and coaching. Like I kind of remember the little Giants scene. I loved watching that movie growing up, and also him just being on the video games. I mean, everyone, like when you're in a tight position in Madden, you always use that Ask Madden scenario or that option and stuff. So probably those are my memories.
Yeah, best Madden game was Madden 04 Playmaker Control. That was use Mike Vick. But because the final game with him and Summerall was actually what? Super Bowl 36.
Yeah.
Yes, and yep. When Tom Brady moved the ball down the field against the greatest show on turf, and kicked that field goal to win the game. But my memory for Madden games, you probably know where I'm going with this. The final game at RFK Stadium. And I saw him call it. Yes, I'm going there, Ty. Yes.
I mean, it's fine to go.
The Redskins whooping the the Redskins whooping the Cowboys' ass and making them their bitch. And having them have old man Zion, because every season at the end of the season, at their last home game, they play old man Zion. Seeing that goddamn helmet come up and it's burning as a fan was just raising it up. I saw that the other day. I'm like, I teared up. I'm serious. No, trust me. I'm sorry. I had to do that. I had to do that because I was
in Summerall, man. I was much too young for that Super Bowl, but I did whenever I got I would play Madden 2000 in 2002 or something like that, or 3, and I'd hear Madden and Summerall, and it's just I remember Summerall got a chance to call he called one of his last games. His last game actually wasn't that Super Bowl. I remember it because it was just I was scrolling through one day. He called a Cotton Bowl game between it. The team was Texas Tech or something like that. I can't remember.
No, that was his last game with Madden.
Yeah, that was his last game with Madden, but he did call another.
He saw a couple Cotton Bowl games.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
It was Cotton a Texas Tech game.
Yeah, when they had Crabtree and
Graham Harrell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I know they had
with Madden. I mean, I mean, when it comes down to it, Santonio with the touchdown, and then it's Al Michaels and Madden also was just as iconic. And I remember the last thing he said, "Unbelievable." Whenever they ruled it a touchdown, it's just it's one of those things that will be embedded in your brain for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah, I think that might have been I don't know, the best overall Super Bowl. That's up there. I would put that up there, and I would put what would be another one? The one that rivals it. Which one? 49. That's 51, the Russell Wilson.
49, 51.
No, 49, 51. 51, they choke. I'm talking about edge of your seat, 49. The Russell Wilson.
Yeah, 49 was great.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one when Russell Wilson threw the ball at the 1 yard line like an idiot. I'm sorry to bring up past triumphs of the New England Patriots, but it just happens that way. So
let's now move on to, of course, another thing and we kind of mentioned it with Jake, but Ben Roethlisberger, he didn't exactly say that it was the end, but I think he kind of hinted it. And we've now reached that point where I know it's been tough for us. A lot of times we say we'd rather they just like lose so they can go fight for a better draft pick for the future. But now that it's like really hits you, it's like, all right, they got to at least do something. They got to at least try to make it into the playoffs.
Oh, we never even gave us our scores. We'll
do that quickly at the end.
We'll do. I mean, the Ben, he's been given kind of clues, like, him. If you saw that photo after they beat the Browns in Cleveland, like his last game in Cleveland, pretty much, you could see on his face that he knew, like it was really emotional for him and stuff. So I think the writing was on the wall. He doesn't have a contract past this year. He mentioned that today. So like, this is going to be it here on Monday night. So I think you've seen a lot of people on Twitter, posting their memories of Ben and everything. Like, so it should be interesting to see. I just hope the rest of the Steelers players don't, lay down and put up an embarrassing performance, because they're obviously not the most talented team right now. They're really struggling up front, both sides of the line of scrimmage, and that Chiefs game was obviously brutal. But the Browns are not doing that much better right now.
Yeah. Huh. So yes, we playfully call. I do it. They don't do it, but Yeller, I think he's gonna play. I think he's gonna play his best game of the year. Emotionally, it just depends on the other 10 people on the offensive side of the ball. I think he has one more big game in him.
Yeah,
I really do.
So I'm gonna have the same agreement with Jake that yes, it's gonna be a close game, but I'm gonna say the finals 17-16 Steelers, and I'm gonna say the best player for the Steelers is Ben Roethlisberger. It's his moment, and right now at this moment he has his best season in terms of fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. He has 5 fourth quarter comebacks and 6 game-winning drives. I think he's going to add another notch to each of them and have it be far and away his best season in terms of those two diagrams. But this time, he's going to do what he hasn't done in the previous few of them. He's actually going to score a touchdown. It's not going to be a field goal and left at the Boswell. He will handle his own business.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game, low scoring too. I think the Steelers, I like them in this game just because of the Ben factor. I think they just have to be up for this. I think Roethlisberger, he wants to go out on a good note here at Heinz Field, not have like last time when they played the Browns at Heinz Field, which is when they got embarrassed in the playoffs. So I'll say the Steelers win 23-17.
Okay. Well, I guess it's up to me now. Emotionally charged game. I'm gonna say the Steelers win. They're gonna score a late touchdown, but it's gonna be the defense that does it. They're gonna hear that. Ben's gonna hear that Renegade one more time, and that defense will be inspired for once in the season. Defensive touchdown. I can see Hayward forcing a fumble, somebody running it back, or making a play on defense. Clinches the game. 24-14 Steelers.
Yeah, I think they have to get turnovers in this game, and like Jake mentioned, they have to stop the run early because if the Browns get it going, and they could have that like Bill Belichick type of game plan where they limit Baker's attempts. That's not going to be a good recipe for success in regards to the Steelers.
All right, guys. So we gave our predictions. Again, a great talk with Jake Burns of the Origin Brown Report. We will have a recap of this game coming up sometime in the week after Monday night. And of course, it is going to be a new year when this game happens. So we all wish you a happy new year as we go into 2022. There's a lot of questions with the Steelers, but let's just enjoy these final 2 weeks. And of course, this final home game for Ben Roethlisberger.
Potentially.
Yeah, and they could keep the streak alive for Tomlin and Ben. Actually, if they win against the Browns on Monday night, it'll guarantee them to not have a losing season.
Right.
So why not? Why not let it fly? And that's all for us. That's Chris Ward, Brandon Walker. I'm Ty Polk. You've been listening to the Renegade Blitz. See you in 2022.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, at @RBlitzPod, and @BlitzVideos. Read articles on RenegadeBlitz.com. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. The Renegade Blitz podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you can listen to podcasts.